Hi everyone, welcome to my very first YouTube video. I'm A. Clark, I'm a photographer from the Stafford area. My main area of interest is wildlife, particularly birds. A few weeks ago I had the enormous good fortune to win the birdlife category of the British Photography Awards with my image Flashdance, which you can see on the screen just behind me there. A lot of people have expressed an interest in the image and how it was shot, so what I thought I'd do is just put together a little how-to video just to show people how it was done. Now, to get the look on this image, I used a combination of slow shutter and second curtain flash. What happens is the slow shutter allows you to show the movement of the birds, and the flash firing at the end of the exposure will literally freeze the action so that you've still got the birds and that quite sharp. Now, just going to explain second curtain flash just in case anybody's not familiar with the term. The simplest way to explain it is that the flash will fire at the end of the exposure, like this. So there's a lag there between me pressing the shutter and the flash going off. That's basically the flash firing at the end of the exposure. So what will happen is you will see movement in there like you see in the image here, and then the flash will just freeze those bits in place. Right, now I'm just going to go into the equipment and settings that you'll need to achieve this sort of shot. I'm using a Canon 5D Mark III. Any DSLR will do the job, mirrorless as well, just as long as you can have full manual control, adjust the shutter speed, adjust the synchronization. You will need a set of radio transmitters for your flash so that you can take the flash unit off the top of the camera and situate it nearer the subject. I tend to use the Yongnuo flash triggers. They're cheap, they're reliable, they get the job done, and I've had no complaints with them so far. You'll need a flash unit, obviously, with the receiver for the radio transmitters attached to it, and you'll also need a tripod, because if you've got your camera firing at quite slow shutter speeds, you don't want any unintentional camera shake. Right, I'm just going to show you the settings that I use to get the shot on here. If you go onto your menu, find your external speedlight control, scroll on down to flash function settings and second curtain synchronization. On the menu you've got first, you've got second, and you've got high speed sync. What we're looking for is the second curtain synchronization. So we come out of that, and then we go on to actual camera settings themselves. Put it on manual, then you can have control over all the aspects. I'll generally set the shutter speed at around about 1/6 or 1/8 to start with, and about f9 on the aperture. ISO I will always do as low as is possible, and I'll always shoot in RAW just in case you need to recover anything from the shot. These settings aren't complete to go by. As you try your test shots you may need to adjust it because of the ambient light outside, but I'll show you that when we do the test shots. Alright, on your flash controller, if you make sure it is set to second curtain itself, and adjust your flash power to around about 1/4 to start with. Again, you may need to change these settings when you do your test shots, so don't take them as gospel. So on your flash unit itself as well, again make sure that that is set to second curtain synchronization, just in case there's any sort of miscommunication between the triggers. Make sure that your trigger is set. Alright, so on to setting up the shot. I've got my camera mounted on the tripod just to ease any camera shake at slower shutter speeds. It's pointing down towards the area where I intend to be photographing the animals. I've got a black backdrop in place there just to remove any distractions from the background, and I've got my flash unit set up just on camera right there. I'm just going to do a couple of test shots at the settings I mentioned earlier, just to see how they work with the ambient light out here. I'm turning the flash controller off, so we're just shooting ambient now. And that's not bad, but that's a little bit light for what I'm looking for. So what I'm going to do now is just increase the shutter speed by 1 and narrow the aperture by 2 stops. That should let less ambient light in and darken it down a bit for me. Yeah, that's better. That's more like what I'm looking for. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the flash unit back on now. Do a test shot. Yep, that looks pretty good. So all we need to do now, oh, here we go, mate, straight away. Well, you couldn't ask for better luck than that. Usually you have to wait a while. Hey, fellas. Now, usually what will happen is you'll get one dominant one who picks the prime feeding spot, which is where I'm directing the camera at. Usually all you have to do is just watch him and see what happens. Generally they will fight and squabble over that spot there. As you can see, they're not at all bothered by the flash unit. Looking at that though, seeing a couple of shots there, it does look slightly underexposed on the flash. So what I'm going to do is just increase the flash power slightly. Alright, so I've increased the flash to half power. Okay, that looks a little bit better now, so we'll just have to wait, see what happens if they come back. Alright, while we're waiting for the birds to come on back, I'll just mention how I've composed the frame on this one. I've literally just kept the feeding area just right at the bottom there. Main reason for that being is they don't usually confine themselves just to there. There's a lot of action which keeps jumping up, so that gives me quite a wide frame to catch the action in, so I can crop in on any little pieces that I capture. Okay, so I've got some of the images I shot today loaded up into Lightroom. I'm just going to quickly go through the editing process that I use on them. Scrolling through the pictures, I didn't really get very much today, but there is one that I think is usable enough just to show you the process that I use. And there we go. Got a nice bit of motion on the bird's wings there, which I can use to illustrate the process. So what I'll do is I'll just go into the develop module. I will crop the image down to a composition that I think is suitable for it. There we go, that's not too bad. You can see the action on the wings and there's some nice sharpness on the bird there. I'll go down onto one of my presets, which basically all this preset does is it will increase the clarity a little bit and it will add some sharpening and noise reduction to the image. That's just a basic quick one that I put on basically all of my images. Then from here, what I will do, the background is still slightly light, so I'm going to drop the blacks on it, drop the shadows, which brings it down into a bit of a darker background there, but you can still make out the motion. And then all I'm going to do is just use the adjustment brush, and I'm just going to increase the highlights, the clarity, the shadows, the sharpness and a bit of saturation. And quite simply, all I will do is brush onto some of the areas that I want highlighting, just to bring the details out a little bit. And it's a very, very simple process if you get it close enough in camera, because all you have to do is just make some minor adjustments to some of these just to bring out the details that you want to see. All the details are there captured on the raw, you've just got to bring them out. It can be quite a quick process, or if you really want to go into detail you can zoom in and pick all of the little tiny bits out if you want, but just for the purposes of the illustration, just to show how simple it is to edit, I'm just going to do this real quick for you here. What I will do sometimes as well is just add another brush just to pick out even more details with the same settings on it. Or alternatively, if there's areas up here that you want to pick out, I would just do a new brush and just select the highlights. Just to make the wings glow just a little bit more, or just to highlight some more of that movement on there. There we have it. That is not too bad an image. Obviously you can work it as much as you want and use the adjustment brush, the shadows, the sliders, just to your taste. Could up the vibrance a little bit if you want to add some more colour, but all in all that's not too bad an image, just for illustrative purposes. You can still see some areas there where it's light in the background, so you could do a little bit more work with a brush just to darken that down to highlight the birds more, but overall that's the process I use on mine. So that's the process that I use to create images such as this one. Hope you've enjoyed the video. If you'd like to see any more of my work, please check me out on Instagram. My tag is Aid Clark. Should be appearing on the screen around about now. If you do create any images using this method, please tag me in them. I'd love to see what you guys make of it. If you've got any comments or questions, please stick them below in the box. Thanks for watching.